Performance time, come on and run some tests. We're going to find a memory leak. I've got no friends but virtual users. Soak test never end, it's performance time. Hello and welcome to Performance Time, the show where we look at the basics of performance testing with fresh eyes. I'm back after a very long time, apologies for that, but I have a much better microphone and hopefully that will make a difference. And today we are going to be talking about correlation, which is one of those fundamental skills, scripting skills, that all of us need to do load testing. So what is correlation? Well, back in episode 6, we talked about this cafe metaphor and how the conversation between me as a customer or a client with the server behind the counter and the dialogue that we have is just the same as the conversation between our browser or an application on the client side and the server on the other end. And we use that as a metaphor to understand how load testing tools work. Within that metaphor, what would an example of correlation be? Well, the server behind the counter might say, there's 4 different kinds of muffins today. You can have banana, bran, chocolate, and something else, right? So that's information that comes back from the server. I then pick one and essentially store it in a variable, and then I say, I'd like to have the banana muffin, please. So that's correlation. I've taken a value from the server and I'm using it in a subsequent request to that server. That's all that correlation is. Taking a value from the server and using it in subsequent requests or a request. So an example from my work, I work with an insurance company. A lot of our applications are around insurance quotes. So I might go through the process of, in a particular application, generating an insurance quote. And at the end, there might be a quote number that gets displayed. Now, I might take the value, that quote number, and store it in a variable. And then I might take that on further and use that to go and purchase a policy. So the process of taking that quote number and then turning it and then using it in a subsequent request in order to create or purchase a policy, that's correlation. So hopefully we're clear about what correlation is. Now I wanted to talk a little bit about the scope of extraction. So there are different ways which we can extract values. So we could extract the first instance of a particular value, we could extract a random value, or we could extract every value that matches a certain criteria. So what do I mean by that criteria? Well, how do we actually extract during correlation? So I have this very simple HTML example that I just made up this morning. How would we extract the text between these two, inside the P element, the paragraph element? Well, often when we start performance testing, the first way that we correlate is using boundaries. So we could, if our load testing tool has the functionality, we can say, please extract the text between this text, this left boundary here, a P, and this right boundary, which is the closing P element. That's one way to do it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work in a lot of situations because you can't find unique boundaries. So we need to build our skill set so that we can have other ways of matching text. The way that I most commonly do this is using regular expressions, which is just a notation, a way of searching through documents to find a particular set of text. Now, regular expressions are a topic for themselves, which I'd like to cover in the future, so I don't want to go into the details now, but that's another way. It's often called regex rather than the full regular expressions. And another way is XPath. So XPath is a way of traversing XML documents to find a particular node. And that's another way that we can find particular elements or values that we want, and it can be very robust in the right situation. And along with XPath is of course JSON path, which is pretty much the exact same thing, except we're traversing JSON documents rather than XML. So that's what I wanted to cover today around correlation. I hope that makes sense, and as always, if you have any questions, just let me know. And I'll see you next time. We'll be covering the next topic around load test scripting. See you next time.